This text addresses the issue of mandatory water and sewage services. Water service refers to the supply of drinking water for human consumption and other applications in a given area through different methods such as pipes and vehicles. These services are provided by both public companies, called water supply company, and private companies, called water company. In some cases, these companies exercise abusive control over the population and communities they serve, similar to electric companies. Although the severity of the abuse can vary by area, it is considered a concern of violations of basic rights, in most cases. Additionally, in many places around the world, including the United States, water services are provided by private, for-profit companies. In summary, concerns are raised about the control and abuse exercised by water service providers, whether public or private. Compulsory water and sewer services. Water service is the delivery of reasonably clean and safe fresh water for drinking and other applications, for use by people of a defined area. It is the service of sourcing, treating, cleaning, and delivering water using various methods. Delivery methods used are usually pipelines and vehicles. The entities responsible for water services will be called here water utility if it is public, and water company if it is private, and in general will refer to them as water service providers. For the purposes of this discussion, water service will refer to both the delivery of fresh water and the drainage of wastewater, sewer service, although these two services may be performed by a different utility or company. I believe water service providers have an abusive and compulsory, obligatory grip on the population and communities they serve, many times very similar to the grip held by the electric companies. Although the severity of the abuse may vary depending on the area, I believe it is fundamentally there in most cases. Water services are often handled by the local government, town, city, county, etc. However, these public utilities work often in conjunction with private corporations and contractors for infrastructure projects, maintenance, and/or financial services. Many areas of the world, including increasingly in the U.S., are serviced, in major part or in whole, by private, for-profit corporations. Here, I'll call this the privatization of water services, or simply, privatization. Well-reported examples of privatization have occurred in England, Argentina, Bolivia, and Colombia. I believe water service is not an absolute necessity for most people in a community, but of course, access to clean water via rainfall or bodies of water, rivers, lakes, ponds, or underground reservoirs, is an absolute necessity. Water is a resource that has been here on Earth, perhaps even before the Earth was still covered in red-hot lumps of rock. It is estimated that roughly the same amount of water that existed billions of years ago remains here, including fresh and salty water. Yet we have found and allowed ways for our governments to claim water resources as theirs, and have even allowed corporations to buy its sources. The logic is clear and basic. All life needs water to live. Humans need water to live. And, per all sorts of civilized agreements, no one may hold the ability to live from anyone unreasonably. To go against this is to participate in or enable murder. So, according to this logic, no one should claim for themselves or buy an area's water resource, with the goal to sell it only to those lucky ones that have the money to buy it. You see, water is different from a small plot of dry land or a building that occupies a definite space and has little to no detrimental effect on large populations. So, we have agreed as a society that owning those is okay. On the other hand, water sources may serve as a literal life-giving fountain to many other people. And water is not static, it has a cycle. It comes and goes with evaporation and rainfall. It changes from liquid to vapor and back to liquid. And mankind has no control over this cycle, and they did not bring it about. So, reasonably, no one person or group should claim it as theirs, because doing so enables them to literally choose who lives and who dies, or at least, who gets to live better and healthier or struggle and die earlier. Yet, we have largely ignored this logic and allowed many wealthy and powerful individuals, governments, and corporations to claim and secure away major water resources throughout the world, to include even rainfall. Like electric service, water service is already installed and ready when you move into a house or apartment. If you are among the few that can have your home built for you, water service is a no questions asked feature of your home. You are expected and at times required to start and pay for water services. In most areas in the US, especially in large cities, you are required to have and pay for water service, public or private. Some landlords, property owners, even require their tenants by contract to pay their water services or face eviction. Like electric service, water service is usually provided by one entity in each municipality, and it is either the public utility or a private company. And since the water infrastructure is fixed and cannot easily be transferred in ownership, the water service provider is normally a monopoly. And, as mentioned several times before, having zero power to choose who provides you with water gives that single water service provider a tremendous and unreasonable power over you and your dependents. In many areas of the country, especially the low-income areas, these water service providers can and do raise their rates virtually at will, and they can and do shut down this extremely vital service at the first sign of a late or non-payment. And they can and do treat their customers as trapped wild game, especially those of low social and economic power. There is a reason why water service providers, like electric companies, have drive-through lanes for payments. This is because large percentages of their customers routinely fall behind on their payments and are put on cash-only status. And these drive-in lanes are used to take their payments in person. These people are severely inconvenienced to have to pay in person and in cash for a vital resource. And this and other intimidating tactics are used to subjugate the poor and middle classes of a community. The cutthroat and ruthless water service providers will shut your life-supporting water service, no questions asked, if their demands are not met. I have been a victim of this myself in Dade County, Florida, and there were many other people caught up in this same abuse, where they are made to pay so that they can live. Eventually, this grows into a sadistic and abusive relationship between the poor and those controlling the water, because they know they've got you by your genitals and will smoke you out of your home and have you running to them to pay for this water service in addition to unreasonable reconnection, late, and penalty fees. I suspect many water service providers get sadistic satisfaction at having their poor and destitute citizens, many of them disabled, elderly, minority groups, to come to them with their few gathered dollars, begging for reconnection. To add insult to injury, water services, in many areas, have become extremely unaffordable. I have noticed this phenomenon especially in apartment buildings of mid to large cities. There, curiously, water services bills can be much higher than those bills for single-family homes. I have had water bills average close to $100 per month while living in an apartment in the mid-2000s. That is about $156 when adjusted for inflation for 2024. And that was while using just below average amount of water. This is a sleep-depriving high amount for a working family with a lower middle-class income. Just imagine what this monthly charge would mean for a poor family. I understand that the water piping in multi-level apartments can be quite costly to maintain, and even small water leaks can run up a water bill quite high. And apartment building maintenance often shirk from costly plumbing repairs. But I believe, and reports suggest that, is the profit-making opportunities of water services that drive the high bills. Think about it. What better resource to get assured payments than from one that is essential to life, and one that you are essentially required to have? A study found that private water companies charge about almost 60% more, on average, than public utilities. Some private water service providers charge as much as double the amount of their public counterparts. There are many municipalities that allow private companies or individuals to buy wholesale water from the public utilities, such as apartment building owners. Then they sell that water to their tenants, likely aiming to make a profit. This practice is called submetering. It is reported that many private agencies specialize in submetering to increase cash flow to landlords and raise property value. These practices are obviously abusive and even criminal, and they take advantage of the most basic need and of the vulnerable renters in our society, which are often the young or old, poor, immigrant, and/or disabled demographic. Greed, it seems, has no limit, and it has been allowed to make money from the most basic human need, aside from breathing air. Here, I argue that water is a human need and therefore should be a human right, and it should not be sold. Doing so targets the poor and destitute for no service, or lower quality service, or limited service, or even less quality water. Selling water basically divides between those that deserve it and those that don't. Water and water service should be provided to everyone in the same manner, quality, and amount, especially to those living in a modern and civilized community or city. Water should be free of charge through a fair and progressive taxation scheme, where the very poor don't have to pay at all. Additionally, I believe people should not be limited anywhere if they can harvest or access their own water. In fact, people should be educated on how to harvest and access water safely, responsibly, and efficiently, especially where water services are limited or not available. For the many reasons above, water services are a big reason to want to live off the grid. Living off the grid can empower you so you are not forced to accept and pay for water services. As I will develop in more detail later, you can harvest rainwater or tap into a natural water source, all free of ongoing charges. You can build and access a water well, pump water from a nearby river or pond, or even truck in your water every few weeks. Also, you may build and use a septic tank or a latrine to avoid monthly charges for sewer. The point is, the choice of who and how they provide you with water should be yours, and you should be completely free and able to harvest and utilize water from nature. These should be true until the day that water service is completely free of charges. Thank You for Listening by Hector Vladimir, written in the fall of 2023, edited April 2nd, 2024, Georgia, USA.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. Please look for the next episode soon, and please ensure to share this with your friends and family. And please like this content and subscribe as a sign of support and for me to continue to provide this type of content to more people like you. Lastly, if you wish to support this content further, please visit the links provided in this publication. Thank you.